I get asked a lot about my vlogging setup. So that's what we're gonna talk about in today's video. I'm gonna share some of the gear that I'm using and liking, some of the gear that I'm using and struggling with, some of the different things that I've tried. And hopefully it'll be interesting for those of you that are interested in vlogging. Those of you that are not interested in vlogging, this is going to be a really boring video for you, so you might as well just skip this one and go on to the next. But we're going to jump into my vlogging setup. So more often than not, this is my go-to setup. The lens is a Zeiss Batis 18mm, and it's an incredible lens. It's an incredible lens, not just for video, but it's awesome for stills. This is my go-to for astrophotography. It's really tack sharp. It's got an illuminated focus meter on top of the lens. Really incredible lens, and it's really light, which makes it great for vlogging. Now the camera is not what I recommend for vloggers, obviously, because it's just way overkill. This is a Sony A9. Before the Sony A9, I was using a Sony A7 III, and it was just as good as this for video. The Sony A7 III is a fantastic video camera, and that's what I would push people towards if they were wanting to get a vlogging camera or just their first Sony camera. It's a great camera. Problem is, I shoot sports, I shoot wildlife, and the A9 serves as my main wildlife, main sports camera. Now it's also doubling as my video camera. Right now I'm filming this on the Sony A7R III. That's my main stills camera. This is my main video camera. But obviously if I didn't shoot sports, there would be no need to have an A9. It's really overkill. Also, another really big advantage to the Sony switch is the fact that both my camera and my video camera are using the same batteries, the same lenses, the same everything. And that works out really well for me because I don't have to bring two different types of batteries or two different sets of lenses. Any lens can fit on any body and all my batteries are the same, and it's really simplified my setup. So if at any time, if I'm vlogging and I want to throw my 100 to 400 on and get some video clips with that, I can totally do that. Or I can just bring just my microphone, just my main camera, and then I can vlog with just that. The problem with that is that I can't get any of the shots of the back of my camera, that kind of thing. But still, the video quality is very consistent through all my different gear, and it all uses the same stuff. Okay, so the gimbal that I have it on is a Feiyutech. I'll put it up here. I'll put a link to all this stuff as well. A1000. This is the smallest, lightest gimbal that I could find that would hold a Sony camera, and right now I've actually lost one of the thumb screws, so this axis is not actually locked down. It's a great gimbal for several reasons. First of all, it's pretty light. It has this lowered pivot point where I can actually see my LCD screen. It's got different modes. It's got selfie mode, so I can turn it around and it'll look at me and I can still have access to all my dials and stuff. It also has a functional mobile app where you can actually program the different speeds, calibrate it, but most importantly, it's pretty light for a gimbal. It comes in at that much. Weight-wise, it's not too bad. It does make your arm tired after a little while, but the footage that comes out of this is so much more stable than putting it on a GorillaPod or something. Also, because I'm a one-man band, you know, I'm out filming myself, let me show you one of the coolest features of this. So one of my favorite things about this gimbal is the fact that I can program a movement into it. Because I don't have a cameraman, this is a great way to add just a little bit of movement to a shot. So, for example, I can hit this 4 times, put it into one position, hit it again, pick a different position, and now when I hit this, it's going to go to that first position and then slowly pan and tilt over into the second position that I programmed this into. This is really cool because I'm often out filming myself, and this is a great way to add a little bit of movement into a shot without a cameraman. The problem with any gimbal is the fact that it's just more to go wrong. It's batteries that you have to charge. Like if you're walking around with it like this, the footage is great handheld, but the problem is, what do you do to set it down? You can put a little mobile tripod, like a little mini tripod on it, but then you have to set it down all the way down on the ground. And the problem is, as a landscape photographer vlogger, I often have to do these kind of shots where I'm talking into the camera or showing the back of my camera or something. I still kind of have the need for a big full-size tripod. And then the question is, do I do I carry both? For that reason, it's like, it's not perfect. I love the footage that comes or that I get out of this, especially when I'm doing, you know, my talking and you know, pacing around shots. It's so much smoother than anything I have. But the problem is I still have a need for a regular tripod because I have to talk to the camera sometimes, or I need to, you know, have my establishing shots that aren't all just from the ground level. I should point out that my microphone is the Rode Video Micro. This is just the standard wind muff up here on top, but I've also added a second wind muff to the back. I poked a hole in it, poked the cable through there. This protects the microphone in the back from a little, so you have a little bit more wind protection because they're really vulnerable to wind in the back. The reason I go with the Rode Video Micro is because it doesn't take batteries. There's nothing worse than using a mic that requires batteries, going out, getting halfway through your day or your shoot, and then the battery dying and you not having a spare, and then you're just out of luck. You're so much better off to go with a slightly lower quality mic that doesn't require batteries, just because it's always going to work. But I do have another mic that I like as well. This is, oh, what brand is this? It's this one here. It's, how do you pronounce that? Asden? What I like about this is that it's an automatic on off, so it's got a feature to where it's only powered on when the camera is powered on, so you don't go through your batteries as quickly because you don't have to remember to turn it on or turn it off, so that's cool. But it's also a stereo and a mono mic. For a nature photographer, when you're trying to give, you know, a sense of the place and to get all the sounds of babbling brooks and rain falling and stuff like that, this is a great mic, and it's pretty affordable too, especially compared to some of the Rode mics. Stereo video mics can get really expensive. This one's on the more affordable side. Problem is, it's big, it's more bulky, it's more to pack, it's extra batteries, and for that reason I don't use it very often. But if stereo audio is important to you, this is a great option. I recommend it over the Rode just because of price. Also, a couple other features that I like about this gimbal is the fact that, for one, it uses Arca-Swiss compatible plates. So I can just pull it off of here and then quickly mount it on my normal tripod or whatever else I have. I like that it's Arca-Swiss. You do have 1/4-20 threads over several places here. So like what I've done here is I've just got a Arca-Swiss plate on the bottom. I can quickly mount it to my main tripod or another tripod that I have, and then I can get that kind of taller shot. So in theory, this could be a solution where I just have it mounted to a set of tripod legs, and when I need to walk around with it, I can quickly undo this and do my walking around talking shots. But that's a lot of gear to carry, and honestly, most of the time, unless you're working close to the car, if you're hiking in somewhere, you don't want to take two tripods and a gimbal. So you kind of have to choose between this and then mounting it on your main tripod, or just putting it on a tripod, which is another option. Let me show you what that looks like. So this tripod is my FLM, what is it, CB26, something like that, CP26. I picked this up a couple years ago, and I love this tripod because it's very light. So this tripod by itself only weighs like 1.5 pounds, and the ball head that I've paired with this is the Really Right Stuff BH25. It's a really small, lightweight tripod, which makes this setup pretty light. And another cool aspect to this tripod is that it does fold up pretty short, pretty small. So you can easily just kind of treat this like your selfie stick or GorillaPod or whatever, and you can vlog with this quite easily just by putting stuff together, walking around with this. The problem is it's not nearly as stable. You end up getting fairly shaky footage from it because you have a little bit of sideways wobble, but there's no batteries to change. You have your low shots because you can go nice and low with this tripod. You have your tall talking head shots. You can get slightly more stable footage just by extending the legs, which gives it a little bit of counterbalance down below. And people like Thomas Heaton, this is how they vlog. There's nothing to go wrong. It's about the same weight, maybe even a little bit lighter than the gimbal. And for that reason, this is kind of a more reliable setup. And I hate that because I get better footage out of my gimbal, but at the same time, this is more reliable. It gives me different heights. It's a more versatile setup, unfortunately. Right now, that's kind of what I'm pushing people towards, is forget the gimbal and just get a really high quality, lightweight tripod. The reason I like this tripod is you can take the center column out, and that saves a lot on weight. So I don't have that center column, which means I can get really low. Also means that I'm saving some weight. Has a really nice, really right stuff ball head, which I can even use this as my main tripod if I wanted to. I have in the past, but it's really light and it's more reliable than the gimbal setup. So there's probably quite a few of you that are asking, why not do the Casey Neistat GorillaPod, you know, typical vlogger setup? And the reason that I don't is that I often need, you know, a talking headshot, or I need a shot from looking over my shoulder at the back of my camera. I need something that's about this tall, because I'm talking to the camera a lot and I don't want to be holding it for every single frame. So these things, they just don't work for me, and that's why I need a larger tripod. So there's plenty of times when I'm walking or hiking way into an area, or I'm already packing a lot of gear, when I don't want to bring 2 cameras and a bunch of lenses and 2 tripods. It just turns out to be too much gear. In those situations, I've picked up this little guy. This is the DJI Osmo Pocket, and I got it just for those times when I don't feel like packing tons of gear. The video footage out of it is okay. It's definitely not on par with the Sony cameras that I'm using, but you know, it's a tiny little sensor. It's very similar to, you know, maybe what I'm getting with the Mavic Air, but for those times where you just want a little bit of like hiking footage or something, look how small this is. This is nice. I can just throw this in my pocket, bust it out. It's cool because it'll do 60 frames a second. I can slow that down, smooth it out. It's already really smooth footage because of the built-in gimbal. Quality isn't, you know, on par, but it's a whole lot better than not getting anything. It's better than filming with my phone. Footage is okay, but it's a lot better than I would have got with the other camera, because I wouldn't even pulled out my other camera because I was too busy hiking. And so this is really convenient for those situations. So things that I've learned along the way is the fact that gimbals are nice and you get addicted to that really smooth footage, but the problem is they slow you down. I feel like I'm always having issues, or I'm always having to, you know, get it balanced or get it set up, and it just slows me down a lot. A setup like this is not nearly as exciting or technologically advanced or sexy, but it's reliable. As long as you're really careful about getting nice, smooth arm movements and trying to be stable and actually thinking about it, you can get some pretty good results out of this. So for example, this is what it looks like filmed on the A9, same picture profile as I had with the other camera. This is the smaller Rode Video Micro, and I'm using the tripod fully extended as kind of a counterbalance. So if I'm really careful and I walk around a little bit, I have to focus on it and I have to think about it. It's not as stable as a gimbal would be, but it's very suitable. Throw a little warp stabilizer on it and it'll be all right. So if we compare that to the gimbal footage, as I move around, you can see that it quivers a little less. It's a little bit smoother. It's definitely nice for walking shots for sure. It's easy to get addicted to this nice smooth footage, but you know, the question is it worth the money? And is it worth the amount of time that it takes to get it balanced, which isn't that much. It's pretty quick and easy to balance, especially once you do it once. Is it worth the time? And is it worth the keeping extra batteries? And is it worth the weight? That's for you guys to decide. I do absolutely love the cinematic footage that it can get when you program it to do movements. That's something you can't do with the tripod. The one thing that I will say though is that I love the movement that you can add into the shot with that particular gimbal. The gimbal does have its shortcomings though. I really struggle with some of the twist knobs. First of all, I've lost one. The one that actually clamps to the quick release plate, it comes loose pretty easily, and I'm constantly trying to reef down on that. I'm always struggling with how to best carry it when I'm, you know, hiking through the woods or whatever, or strapping it to my bag. It feels kind of delicate in that way, but to be able to add just that little bit of cinematic movement, it makes it addictive. So this is more reliable, that is more fun, what the right answer is, I'm not really sure. But one thing I will say is that I do not regret switching over to Sony cameras, because the video footage I get out of it is so much better. Because I'm often shooting in pre-dawn situations with really, really low light levels. I love the high ISO capabilities of the camera. It can pretty much see in the dark. The autofocus is quite good, don't you think? And I'm just getting so much more dynamic range, because as landscape photographers, we're out, you know, shooting in dramatic light fairly often, and sunsets and bright skies and dark foregrounds. It's really nice to have that dynamic range. I definitely love shooting on the Sony cameras. Stabilization wise, I'm not sure what the right answer is, but this is what I've been doing. All right, hopefully this helps some of you guys. There'll be links to all the stuff that I'm using in the description down below. I'm curious what you guys are using for vlogging setups, because, you know, my setup is by no means perfect, and I'm sure that you guys have some great suggestions as well. So leave those suggestions down in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy, guys.